Okay, we're going to spend a little bit of time now looking at how to make text links appear as buttons. So, as is typical, I have my root folder sitting out here on the desktop to work in. And we've been working most recently in Project 2 demo folder, so I'm going to continue working there right now. If I go over to the class website, let's see, we're in week 6 at the moment, but I have a file for you to download here called verticalnavigation.zip. So that just gives you a starting point for us to work together on. I'm going to download that real quick, hide this, and just put it on my desktop. Yours might be in your download folder. So with this zip file here, I'm going to double click it so that it expands. And it just gave me a file called verticalnavigation.html. So I'm going to throw that loose into my Project 2 demo folder. So it's a little bit different than the other files we've been working on. This index out here and the items in our products folder. There's our jewelry file, our widgets, different pieces we've been working with here. But we're just going to look at creating some vertical navigation right now. Created from text links, make them look like buttons. So with that file dropped in place, I'm going to move over to Dreamweaver, and I already have my site set up in Dreamweaver, and so you see it's pointing to my website. Here's my Project 2 demo folder. It's not showing up yet, so I'm going to click on the refresh button and come down to Project 2 demo, and there's my verticalnavigation.html file. So let's go ahead and open that one up, see what we have going on here. So, simple enough, pretty straightforward file. We've been working with floated divs at this point. So if I take a look at the file, I can see that I have a container div surrounding all of my page here. Within it, over here on the left, I have a div with a class of sidebar. There are some text links over here. I have a content div to the right of that, so obviously these are floating up next to each other. And then down in the footer, I just have a link right now giving credit for the site. And so that's it. Basic site we have set up here. We could go look at the code view of it, but it's pretty straightforward. I do have the CSS dropped right here within my file right now. So just as a reminder, it's not how we really want to create them in the long run. This does not take advantage of having our external CSS that we get to share, but it does make it easy for a demo like this. So I have everything dropped in place right there. So the first thing we're going to do is work with our text links sitting over here in Sidebar. I've highlighted one of them right now just to show you what we have here. First thing I want to point out, we can look in code view, or we can look down here in the properties panel. Notice that under link, it just has the pound sign, or the number sign if you prefer. We can see that right here in code view as well. So we have the A for the link, and the href equals, and then it just has the pound sign. What that does is it makes it a link, but it doesn't actually point to anything. Okay, so they function as links, or you can style them as links. I can go to live view and they look like links. You notice how my cursor turns into the finger there, so I could click on them, but they don't actually point to go anywhere. So that's just a way that you can set something up to be a link without having the file name necessarily yet. So that's how I have those set up at the moment. The other thing to notice that I have done here is, instead of just having paragraphs sitting over here in the sidebar, you'll note that I have it as a bullet list, or what is actually an unordered list. We can see that over here in code. You see the UL for unordered list. So that's a bullet list. And that is actually the proper way to go about making navigation. This is information that is a list. It makes sense to be a list because of the type of content it is, and so it's proper for us to do it as a list as opposed to a paragraph. So keep that in mind, both when you're doing assignment for the class and then later when you're building websites. It makes more sense. Now, this could be an ordered list, therefore a numbered list. So I have 5 items, and if it would make sense if these were to be done in order, then it would make sense for me to make it an ordered list. So there'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if it was a process that you would follow. In this case, it is not. So the order does not particularly matter. So unordered list makes more sense. So that's why I have that there. We're actually going to take the bullets off of them when we start to create the style, and then we'll make these look more like buttons. But just wanted to point out, first of all, that it is best to create that as a list. So I have an unordered list, a bullet list here. Each of the links is on its own line or has its own bullet. Therefore, if we look in code, it has its own LI or list item. If you wanted to add to it, I could click after the last one and hit return, and I could add another link here for I'm trying to think what, music, I don't know, pick something random. And then of course I could highlight that and come down to link down here and put a pound sign in it, and you see now I have a new link. So I'm going to take this one back out, I don't really need it. You could of course put one in the midst of the list. I could go after products and hit return, it just adds another bullet there. I could add something there. So editing the list is simple enough. So I have the unordered list here, and then notice my page structure. So I pointed out that I have the sidebar over here on the left. It's floating there. But if I look in code, or if I look down here, you see that the unordered list is sitting within a div of nav links, and that is sitting within a div of sidebar. So the sidebar one is the one that is floating, sitting over there. But I have put it in a div called nav links as well, and that's so that I can address them directly. They're going to be compound rules because I want to make rules for the links within the nav links div. I could address them just within sidebar, but there might be the occurrence or the occasion in the future where I would have other content within sidebar and I'd want to address it differently. So I've gotten very specific and called it out as nav links here. So I'm going to utilize that when I create my rules. Okay, so let's get started on our CSS. I'm going to come over, I can see my files panel, but I'm going to switch over to CSS Designer so that I can start working on my rules. So there are two primary rules that we need to create here. The first one has to do with the list itself. So I'm going to click somewhere here within the list, and I'm going to come down and select the UL. So I have the entire list selected. Remember, with CSS Designer, to create the list, I now come over to my CSS Designer and I pick my source first of all. So I don't have an external file, I'm working completely internally. So I'm going to stick with that for the moment. I'm going to click on Style within the brackets there, so showing you that these are within this file. I'm going to jump down to Selectors. Remember, we always want to check and see if there is a rule existing already. Now, what are we doing the rule first? First, we're creating a rule for the UL, for the whole list. So, I can look and see if I have a rule. I don't have any rules for a UL as I scroll through here. So I know it's safe for me to go ahead and create a new one. Let me slide this over so I can see everything. So I can go ahead and create a new one here for the UL. So I'm going to click on the plus sign, and it suggests a rule to create for me here. So I get pound container space dot sidebar space pound navlinks space UL. So reading from right to left, this would create a rule for an unordered list sitting within an ID of navlinks, within a class of sidebar, within an ID of container. So very, very specific here. I don't need it to be this specific. Really what I want is to address any unordered list within navlinks. The fact that it's in sidebar, it could sit somewhere else sometime, and everything here is sitting within the container, so that's really not required. So I'm going to delete those off of the left there, and I'm just going to set this up so that it is any unordered list within navlinks, because that's what I'm wanting to address. Okay, so with that set, I'm going to click down here in Properties, and I can start working on my rule. This thing's getting confused. Let me find my file here real quick. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now I can start creating the properties for my unordered list. My show set is turned on right now, so I'm going to deselect that. Now the two things that you have to have for your UL rule. First, I want to get rid of the bullets. So I have these bullets riding along right here, and I don't want bullets in my buttons. And so I'm going to go all the way to the bottom of the properties section here. So you can either use this little icon right here, this button, to go to others. That pushes me all the way to the bottom, or I could use my scroll bar here and go to the bottom. The thing that gets rid of the buttons is list style type right here. So if I go to list style type, click on that, and I go select none, you'll notice that the bullets have now gone away off of my unordered list. You can also see over here in code view, of course, it's starting to create my rules for me. So pound navlinks space UL list style type of none. Okay, so that got rid of the bullets, so that's good. Come back over, make sure I'm still editing the correct rule. The one other thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this space right here to the left, and that is padding that is on the unordered list. So making sure that I'm editing pound navlink space UL. Now I'm going to go back up to the top. So I'm going to click on Layout and scroll down just a little bit. There's the margin. Here's the padding. So it's really padding left that is doing it, but I could zero out all of the padding and that would work for me. So I'm going to take that approach. So to edit all of these together, remember if we hover over the center right here, it says click to change all the properties. I'm going to click on that, and it gives me this little link icon now. So all of these are linked together. I'm going to click on the number over here. 0 is the default, so that's great. I'm going to leave that at 0 and hit my tab key just to take me to another one, and they're all set to 0 now. Notice when I did that the space went away in front of my links over here in the unordered list. Okay, so that is the one other thing that I need to do when making my UL rule. So that's everything I need there. So now we kind of have the list prepped, and we're ready to start modifying the links and making them look like buttons. So because the next thing I want to do is work on the link itself, I'm going to highlight one of the links over here in the area that I'm working on. I need to go create my next rule. So I've highlighted it, coming down here to my code, to where my tags are showing. I'm going to click on the A for the link. I need to create another new rule. So again, I come up to CSS Designer, I look for my sources. I'm working internally, so I click on that. Come down to my selectors. I always like to make sure I don't have a rule. So this time I'm looking for links within this region. And as I look, I don't even have any rules for links, no A tag rules. So now I'm safe to create a new rule. I come up to the plus sign to add a selector, and again, it makes a suggestion for me. So this one is very long, like the one we had before. So this rule it's suggesting would be any link within a list item, within an unordered list, within the ID of navlinks, within the class of sidebar, within the ID of container. So very, very specific. Really the easiest way to think about this is to think about how I did this previous one. You can see it directly above. I simplified this down to say any unordered list within navlinks. I want these rules to apply. So I'm going to go in a similar fashion here. So I know anything to the left of navlinks I don't need, because the fact that it's in the sidebar or in the container aren't that important to me. I'm just concentrating on anything within navlinks. Now it says any link within a list item, within an unordered list, within navlinks. Create that. I prefer to simplify this all the way down to taking the UL and the LI out of the middle. I'm going to set it so that it applies to any link within navlinks. Okay, so that I've taken the UL and the LI out, like that. One of the reasons I do that is if in the future I need to change that unordered list to an ordered list, then that's the specificity of that previous rule wasn't going to work out for me. Okay, so I'm going to take it here to just treat any A within navlinks, any link within navlinks. Thinking about it in the same way, just as a little side note, you notice my previous rule is an unordered list within navlinks. If I were to change that to an ordered list in the future, this rule would no longer work. So I might want to go modify this rule. Remember that we can have it apply to two different things. So I could add a comma to this and do pound navlinks space OL for ordered list. And while I don't have an ordered list there right now, it kind of future proofs that rule so that it could work for me in the future in case that became an ordered list. Okay, let's continue concentrating on my links here though. So any link within navlinks, I'm going to come click on properties. So now we can start the rules to customize those links to make them look like buttons. So there's a whole series of things we need to put in place here. The first, and probably the most important, is here I'm working in the layout section. And if you look down here, we reach the point that we see display right here. I want to change the display, and I want to change it to block. Now right now, if we think about these links, if you put your mouse over this when it's in a browser, you know that while your mouse is over, so looking at home, when your mouse is over HOME, it acts as a link, and you can click on it. But the area outside of it, or to the right of it in this case, doesn't act as a link. So if I come to display and set this to block, slide up here to block, look over here in look right here where your links are when I set this to block, and look how they change. So you see how they put little boxes around them? They almost look like we have divs around them now. So what it's doing is it's making those links act as block elements. So it's going to change it so that the whole area around the text link acts as a link as well. Okay, therefore it's acting more like a button, because remember, buttons, you're able to click on the entire button, not just the word in the button. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to do, is I want to set display to block. Staying in this section, I'm going to go to my margin and my padding next. So I want to go to my margin, and I want to set it to be 10 pixels, and I want it to be the same all the way around. So again, I'm going to click right in the middle of this and link them all together. I'm going to click on this 0 over here and change it to 10 and hit my tab key so that it puts it in place over here. And notice what it did over here. So margin, again, is around the outside. We think of it usually as around the outside of a div. These being block elements are acting like divs, and you see how it's put space around them. Okay, so now the area inside is going to act as a button. The area outside is just the space around my button. So it's like I've added space between my buttons. That's basically what the margin has done. Now I'm going to come down to the padding here, and I want to set my padding to be 5 pixels all the way around. So again, I'm going to click on the center so that they're all the same, and I'm going to click on the 0 and make it a 5. Then I'm going to hit my tab key to put it into effect, and again we can look and see what it's done for us here. So padding is on the inside of a block element, and so what it's done is put 5 pixels all the way around the type. Now the type is left justified right now, so we can't tell that it's over here, but it is. You can see the space to the left of the S, the space above sitemap, the space below sitemap. So again, it's starting to feel like a button. There's some space in that button. That's what's added that in place. So all of this area in here is going to end up being clickable when we actually utilize these. Okay. So the next thing I want to change is I'm going to go down to the text properties. So I could use this button right here if I want over into properties. Slides me down to text. But this is going to start to affect the look of my button. So color is the first item right there. Oop, little message pop up in the middle. My color is the first thing, and this, remember, this is text color. So right now I have blue and they're underlined. That's the default for text links. So let's start to pick what this is going to look like. I'm going to click on my color, and I'm going to pick a, I don't know, let's pick kind of a dark red. I'm going to use that for my text link. We can see that change over there. That's great. I can start to change other things like my font family. So maybe I don't want to use the default font I've been using. Let's go pick, I'm gonna go use the Gill Sans font family. Okay, I could choose, well, a whole bunch of these right here. If I want to do the font weight, maybe I want them to be bold over here. The font style would let me pick italic if I wanted. I probably do want to change the font size. I'm going to come up and make them be, I don't know, let's see what 20 pixels looks like. Okay, they're big links, that's okay. I'm going to put them at 20 pixels right now for the font size. And then I probably really do want to use text align right here, because it's unusual to see text left justified here within a button. So I'm going to move over here to where it says center and click on that. Okay, now it's starting to look more like I would expect a button to be. Definitely want to pick up text decoration here as well. Usually we don't have underlines on buttons. So I'm going to go to the first one right there that says none and click on that. Okay, so now my text is starting to look like what I would see in a button. Again, you can use font style, you can use font weight, things like that if you want to. I'm going to leave it like this though. I like that look. Okay, the next area is I want to go to border. So I'm going to come back up here. There's an icon for border. I'm going to click on that. So this will give me a border right here at the edge of my block element, where you see where it's highlighting and going red right there. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of a border. So I am going to go to border color right here. Remember, you can affect these individually, but I'm going to use the same color all the way around. So let's go, oh, I don't know, I'm going to pick, so I'm going to go blue, why not? I'm going to pick a blue border that goes around it. By putting it on the top one there, it filled in all the sides. Remember that you have to have a border color, a border width. I'm just going to do 1 pixel. And you have to do a border style. You have to have all of those for a display. You notice it's not displayed yet. So going to border style, I am just going to do a solid one, and now it's shown up over there. Okay, so now I have a simple border all the way around it. The last item that I definitely want to put on here is I want to do a background color. So I'm going to click on the background category right here, and here's my background color. And I'm going to go, I think, just like a pale yellow. That's pretty bright. I'm going to do a pale yellow on here. Okay, so now they're starting to look like buttons. If I come up here and click into live view, then you get a better feel for them. And you see that as I move my mouse over them, okay, the text is always clickable link, but now any of the time I'm in here, you see all of this is clickable until I move my mouse outside of it. So that's what's making them look like buttons. As I move between them, see that's not a link, then it becomes a new link right there, okay? So they're starting to look and act like buttons over here. Now, the one thing that would help them act more like buttons as well is if I had some kind of rollover state or mouse over state on them. I don't have that right now. So let's go add one more rule to do that. And go back out of live view. We can, of course, always look over here in code, because right there, that's the code equivalent of what we were doing here in the CSS Designer. You can always go do this in code. So all that's set up there. And this, of course, is a rule for navlinks A. So now what we want is the pseudo class for the hover. Okay, so if we think about that, what we want to address is these same links in the same region. So it's very similar to the rule we already have, the pound navlinks space A, but now it's the hover effect. So it would be pound navlinks space A colon hover, because that's what would affect this area, the links in this area, just when hovering. So I'm going to do the same type of thing. I'm going to click in the link, come down here and select my entire link, which actually gives you the display. We can see the margin and the padding and everything on it now. And we'll go create one more rule. So go to the CSS Designer, select my internal file, make sure I don't have a rule for this yet, which I shouldn't, and I don't. I see my pound navlinks A. I'm going to click on the plus sign. Okay, same process I went through before, and in fact I can make it look exactly like this one to start. I'm going to get rid of those on the front, get rid of the container and the sidebar. I'm going to get rid of the UL and the LI in the middle. So now I have pound navlinks space A. It's the same as before, but I need to add the colon hover because that's what I'm affecting is the hover state when I put my mouse over it. So now I can come down to the properties area and click. So now at this point, you need to put rules in place for whatever it is you want to change on the hover. Sometimes your button will get a little bit darker when you put your mouse over it. Sometimes they inverse the colors. So maybe when I put my mouse over like home here, the type would become yellow and the background would become red, something like that. Or sometimes they get darker. Let's go with the darker. So if it's getting darker, really the only thing I need to change is my background color. So I'm going to come down here to the background section. I have my background color right here. I have a yellow right there. So I'll move into the yellow area and I'm going to just pick a little bit darker color. Something like that. Okay. So now I have a background color for the mouse over. And I think that's the only thing I'm going to change in this case. So I'm going to go to live view, and now you see as I move my mouse over them, now I have a hover effect on them. Okay, nothing else. Clicking on them doesn't do anything. You can't move between files within Dreamweaver. And there's actually no other state on these. You could go put an active state so that when you click on it, it changes again. Though frankly, that's only shows up for a moment because usually you click and you move, you leave the page. Okay. Looking back up to code one last time. So there's my navlinks A. There's all the rules I put there. And here's the last one I did, navlinks A hover, where I changed the background color. So at this point, I now have links, text links in my sidebar that look and act like buttons. So that was our goal here for this quick tutorial. I'm going to take it one step further, and I'm going to come up to my file and do a save real quick. I've not saved anywhere along the line. I want to look at creating a horizontal nav bar. It's very, very similar to where we are. And so actually I'm going to, instead of starting from scratch, I'm going to keep moving forward from the point we're at right now. But what I want to do is I want to make a duplicate of this file and use the same rules. Now the problem with my rules right now is they are of course right here within this HTML file. So let's go move our CSS into an external file and then duplicate this page and continue on from there. So I want to move my CSS to an external file. So remember right now they're right here in this file. I need an external file, so I'm going to click on the plus sign and I'm going to create a new CSS file. It lets me browse to go pick my location. Okay, I am working out here in Project 2 Demo. So there's my vertical navigation HTML file I'm working on right now. I already have a styles.css file. That's kind of my default name I typically use. So I am going to name this navigation.css. Because I'm working in vertical navigation right now. In a second I'm going to make horizontal navigation. So I'm just going to make this navigation.css. And then I'm going to save this here in my Project 2 Demo folder. So save and say OK. Now you see I have two sources here. Navigation CSS has no selectors in it. My internal one has all of my selectors in it. So moving them to the external is as simple as coming here into the selector, selecting the top one. I'm going to scroll to the bottom, hold my shift key down so that I can select multiple items and click on the last one. Now if I scroll, you see that I have all of them selected. With all of them selected, I'm going to click on one of them. Holding my mouse button down, I'm going to drag them up over navigation.css, and when that highlights, I'm going to let go. So now I see for my internal, there are no rules. When I click on the external, there's all of my rules. Okay, so it's now there. If I look over to code, there's where my internal styles would be. It's now empty, so it's moved them all out. And then right below it, we see the link tag. And the href points to my navigation.css file. So I've successfully moved them all there. At this point, I have my navigation CSS file. You can see it linked right here, and you see the little asterisk right there, which shows you that it's unsaved. And then as well, my vertical navigation file, you see the asterisk right here, as well as the dot up here in the upper left and the red one. Both of those show you that there are unsaved changes here. So I'm going to go take the easy way here and go to File, and I'm going to say Save All, because those are the only two files I have open, and I need to make sure both of those get saved before I leave. So I'm going to do a Save All. Notice that the asterisk went away here, the asterisk went away there, the dot's no longer here. So everything is saved. I've not lost anything, and I'm going to close that file. Okay, moving back out to the Finder, where I've been working here, there's my vertical navigation file. I want to create a horizontal navigation file. So I'm going to simply right-click on that, and I'm going to come down here and say Duplicate. Gives me a copy. The easiest way to rename one of these is with it selected, click on the return key, and that highlights it. And delete copy off the end of it, and then I'm going to just use my arrow keys to move over, and I'm going to name this horizontal navigation. Okay, so now I have a horizontal navigation and a vertical navigation file. Now I'm going to move back into Dreamweaver, go to my Files panel. It's not showing up yet, so I'm going to refresh, and then now there's my horizontal navigation one. Okay, I'm going to open this file up. This, of course, is a duplicate of the previous file, so it looks exactly the same. Now what I want to do here is I want to take this list of items here, and I'm going to put them over here in my main content area and create a horizontal navigation. So this would be a design where we're using a sidebar for something else, and I want horizontal navigation running over here, let's say above my headline. Okay. So I'm going to come over here in the sidebar. There's my link, my list item, my UL. There's my div called navlinks. There's my sidebar right there, but I need to leave the sidebar there. So I want to take the div named navlinks. Actually, this works out well that I put an extra div in here because I'm going to move the entire div over into content. Okay. I'm going to do this in code. I think it's going to be simplest here. So you see it's all highlighted over here. Here it is right there. There's my navlinks div, and I am going to go cut that code. Obviously it disappears over here. And then I want to put it in my content area. Highlighted headline just to show me where I am. So there's my headline, my H1, and here's div class content. So I want it to be the first item within that div. So I'm going to click there and hit return. Hit a tab to indent, and I'm going to go up and say paste. And that put my div as the first item in content, and I can click over here. Now I'm going to go to design view for a second so that you can see this a little bit better. My file's a little bit bigger than my screen. So now you see that they run full width over here, which is what we would expect because there is no width assigned to them. So we want them here, but we actually need them to go side by side. Okay, so a little bit difference there. Our sidebar probably would end up with some content. You know what? I can put some placeholder. I'm going to grab this type right here, and I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to come over into sidebar over here, click in there, and I'm going to say paste just to put something there. So you get a feel for what would go there. Okay. So now what I need to do is I need to work with these elements here, just specific to this file. So I'm going to flip back over to split view so that I can start to work on these elements here. So there are just two things I need to add to these links now to make them work, or to get them to go side by side up here. I need to float them side by side. So we've been looking at floating divs. Divs are block level elements. We're treating these links as block level elements, so we can do the same type of thing with them. And so you remember that the two things we need to float are we need to pick the float direction and we need to give them the width. So I need to create a new rule. I don't want to go, let me go to CSS Designer here, and on my link, here's my navlinks A rule. I don't want to put a float on this, because if I put a float on navlinks A, it's going to change the vertical navigation I have in my other file. So you always have to keep that in mind. I'm sharing CSS between two files now. So I need a new rule, and I needed to address just this specifically. So with my link selected, I'm going to come up and pick my source. It's going to the external file. I'm creating a new link. Let's look at what it suggests for us. So this tells us a link within an li, within a ul, within navlinks. Okay, let's simplify this the same way we did before and get rid of the ul and the li in there. So this would be any link within navlinks, within content, within container. I'm going to pull container off, it's not necessary. And then I'm going to leave it like this. So now I have any link within a navlinks div within content. So content is my main content area, where before I had them in sidebar. So this is more specific. So this is just any navlinks within my center content area. So that's what I'm going to use for the rule here. I'm going to click down at properties. And the two things I need are I need to establish a width and I need to tell them to float. So my width, I went and I checked my overall width of content area, and it's 760 pixels wide, a nice round number. And if I took that and divided it by 5, that would give me a width or a horizontal distance to use for each of these. But looking at that link, you remember that it has padding and it has margin, and so I have to take that into account as well, because the width is the content width area in there. So I took those numbers out, and I've come up with a width of 120 pixels each for these. So I'm going to click on width and go up to pixel, and I'm going to say 120. Hit my tab so that it takes that change. So you see that they're narrow now. And the one other thing I need to do is slide down here and find float. There's float, and I'm going to float them left. Now they sit side by side. Let's go to design view. And you can see that they're sitting side by side here. Can't quite see them all, but anyway, there they are. All sitting side by side now. They fit there. The one other thing you might notice is my navlinks div. You see how it's collapsed up here. And again, that's because I'm using a float. And when you use a float, you have to clear the float. So if these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 links are floating left, then the next element needs a clear, and there is no other element within that div. So there's no element to put the clear on. So we know that the one other way we can clear a float is we go to the enclosing element, this div, the navlinks div, and I put an overflow on that. So I'm going to go back to split view, and I don't have a rule for navlinks right now, and CSS Designer, the properties down here, doesn't do well for overflow. So I'm going to move over to code view, and I'm going to click up here on navigation CSS and just write a rule. So looking in my code, here's where my rules start for items within navlinks. So I'm going to go right above it just to have kind of a logical order. I'm going to hit return, put it in between these, and do pound navlinks space left bracket, return, return, close my bracket. Okay, so there's a rule just to apply to navlinks. And then in the middle of this, I need it to say overflow auto. So we know that that will also clear the float over here. So now if I click over in the UI, you see that it drops down below. And go to design view and you can see it. Okay, so now it clears it. That works out better. It wasn't hurting anything per se there, though what it could do is it could cause this headline to try and float up next to it because we didn't have the clear. You can tell that it's proper now because the div is sitting down below. The other thing we could do is we could go to navlinks here, and if you wanted a background color for your navigation, I could click here and I could pick a background color and pick a, I don't know, let's go a pale. My computer's starting to be slow. Pick a pale green or something like that. And now you have a pale green just for your nav bar. So the nav bar itself has a color. If I look in live view, you can see It really is getting slow. Wow. Okay, you see the preview. So I have a green nav bar. I have roll over buttons, which are really just text links. So get back out of here. And I should go up and, well, if it's going to let me, I want to save. But there we go. I'm going to do a save all. So now we've looked at how we can text links, make them act as buttons. We did it in the left sidebar first and gave us some vertical navigation. Then we duplicated our file and made a variation on it to get some horizontal navigation going here.